call the meeting back to order, and we'll take up item F1. It's the no prior district vacancy. Yeah,
You've got one applicant.
Yes. We have one applicant to fill the vacancy at Colleen Snow. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Let's take up our item G, information consent calendar. All right. I had a question, I guess, on G4. I meant to clarify it. I'll just, this contract, does the start date and end date remain the same?
It does.
I didn't notice that on that.
The only difference is the name of the entity that's being contracted.
Yeah.
As we all know, Ms. Vanderpool went and joined that firm, they formed a firm, if you will. And so, I couldn't do it by way, or it couldn't be done by way of amendment because.
Let's just pull it off.
And happy
Discuss.
to.
Okay. So anyhow, then that'd be one.
You bet.
So we'll pull off G4.
Pull off G7.
Okay. Okay, so let's deal with the balance of the consent calendar.
I move.
Is any public comment on the balance of the calendar? Then moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, G4, thanks, Bob. My question, as I said, was just that I didn't notice, it didn't really indicate, or if it did, I missed it, but that it was the same start and end of what we currently have. Just changing the names.
It would be valid when, if this board approves it, from the date it approves it forward, but it would end at the same time as the other contract, which was already approved,
Yeah.
was
Okay.
scheduled to end, if that answers your question.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other board discussion on this?
My question is, by the adoption of this contract here, does it have provisions in the contract to supersede the previous contract?
Not provisions within it, but it was understood, and I thought I expressed it in my letter, that I would, in writing, rescind the previous upon approval of this.
Just want to make sure that we don't have two contracts going simultaneously.
Understood, and that would be imprudent.
I didn't
and-
see anything in the contract that reflected the fact that you were more or less amending the previous contract.
Yeah, I don't view it necessarily as amendment, but it would, again, my representation to you, sir, is that if you choose to approve, if this body chooses to approve the new contract, I would execute a rescission of the old contract promptly.
I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the contract in its new form with the provision that it supersedes the previous contract with Mr. Curtis.
All right, okay. I'll take public comment now on this item for G4.
Eileen Spencer, can we
Just
have,
state your name for the record.
you interrupted me, I was saying my name. The
State your
contract,
name for the record, please.
I just did, you
Oh, you
keep
did?
interrupting me.
No, you never did. Say your name.
Eileen Spencer, again,
Thank you.
from Can We Help, thank you,
Thanks.
for the third time. Mr. Curtis has other contracts with the county, within the county structure. Are we going to see this come back, or do they handle their James Curtis contracts contracts individually? And do we have any more contracts within the county that this is going to affect?
What contracts does he have with the county? I'm not aware that this is the contract that exists with the Office of County Council for the benefit. I'm not aware that he has other contracts with the county. I may be mistaken.
You are.
Okay.
He has
What other
one.
contract?
He has one that he works with planning and development.
That's this contract.
That's this contract?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Then-
no, that's not this contract. That's the contract that exists that we're seeking to essentially rescind and replace with this one. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. They come separately for approvals for his contract. So
Yes.
now you're saying that they don't need to do that anymore because you have a blanket contract with the county with both of them.
Well, what I know is that there is a contract that already exists between the Office of County Council, essentially the county, through the Office of County Council, and Mr. Jim Curtis, Attorney at Law, and that contract, even though it's not confined to such by its terms, has historically been relied on by the Building and Planning Services, if I got their name right this time, for purposes of advice on land use issues. It was on the agenda in front of this board earlier in the year because the amount exceeded the $10,000 purchasing policy amount, which the CAO could then sign off for. It required board approval, and it was approved.
Who's?
Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
I think you did.
Okay.
Are they close to that, given that $10,000 increase earlier in the year? Are they still under $25,000?
Well, I don't accept the premise of your question that there was a $10,000 increase. The contract from the very beginning was in the amount of $25,000, and this contract would simply, what it does is it just changes the name of the party with whom we're contracting, from Jim Curtis, Attorney at Law, to the law firm, and I'll get specifically to your answer, to the law firm of Curtis and Vanderploeg, or Curtis and Vanderploeg, whatever they call themselves now. But in terms of how much we've spent, I'm under the impression that we've spent about $7,000 to date, this fiscal year, approximately. Did that answer your question?
Let's go back to the $10,000 increase that because they didn't have authority to approve a $10,000 contract or use with this firm or with Jim Curtis at the time.
I think you misunderstood my comment. Let me be plain again about my comment about the $10,000 number. The county purchasing policy says that a department head by themselves has the authority to sign on behalf of the county on a contract up to a certain amount. After that amount of the contract, it requires the signature or approval of the CAO, and that's up to and including $10,000. And any amount of a contract beyond $10,000 requires the approval of the board. So I didn't mean to suggest, and I certainly hope you didn't take, that there was some increase of $10,000, because that's not what I was intending to convey at any point. What I was trying to convey, Ms. Spencer, was that because the face value of the amount of the contract from the very beginning was $25,000, it, according to our purchasing policy, required approval by this entity, the Board of Supervisors. I hope I...
No, I do understand
Okay.
that. What I'm asking you is, do you know if that $25,000 has been exceeded? You're guessing it's $7,000, or you know it's $7,000 today?
Wanting to be prepared, I asked for a list of expenditures, and it looks like, and this is for this fiscal year, that $4,175 approximately has been expended since the beginning of the fiscal year, but there's also approximately $3,000 in bills pending, and so those won't have shown yet on this. I wanted to be
But you-
certain to cover it all.
You've
or
approved
about.
them, so we
Right.
could save
Okay.
$7,100.
You used up your. 3
Thank you,
minutes.
Mr. Burns.
Did I answer your question?
You were very kind, thank you.
If you have
That's
any
my
further
job.
questions, you could direct them to county council outside of this agenda item.
Did I answer any questions at the board?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Yes. Just state your name, please, for the record.
Kimberly Brady.
Good morning.
Okay, what is this contract for? Why are we
Uh,
hiring outside legal help?
I'll say again that this contract, the contract with the firm, what previously or what is currently in existence is with Mr. Jim Curtis, attorney at law, is for legal advice on issues of land use, which is an exceptionally specialized area of law. It's kind of like, let me ask you a question. I won't ask you a question. Let me put it rhetorically. If you have a medical issue and you don't know necessarily what it is, you might go to a GP, a general practitioner initially. But if you're very certain that you've got something going on in your foot or in your knee or something, you might then go to a specialist.
Right, the
That's why
cardiologist.
Mr. Curtis provides us with help. Land use issues are particularly technical, and he's very capable as it relates
Now,
to that. Did I
isn't
answer
he-
your question?
Kind of, but
Okay.
isn't he from Sierra County?
You know, I don't know. I
Yes.
think he lives down that
Yeah,
way,
he's
whether
in
it's in
Sierra
works
County.
in Sierra County.
Well,
Well-
he's county council first.
We don't have this kind of legal services right here in our own county that we can hire? We need Sierra County? We need to
Well-
give him money?
It's a contract for professional services, so a couple things. One is two things, okay? Let's be fair, two things.
Okay, because all right.
All right. One is, when you were talking about a contract for professional services, the county's purchasing policy essentially gives the department head the discretion to be able to choose which vendor they seek that professional service from, and it's based on their
Right.
skill and capability. You should know that.
Not your friendship?
Pardon me?
Not your friendship?
And you should look in terms of the public records and see how long the contract has existed with, hear me for a second, this is important that
What,
you know
as
this.
long as you've been DA? Exactly.
That's for the.
I reject the
Exactly.
premise of the criticism, but I would recommend that you seek out the public records with the auditor's office. Contract with Jim Curtis, that was always with county council. I was never a part of that as DA, and never had any hand in selecting that, and has pre-existed my arrival at the county council's office.
Well,
So,
Vanderpool, your best decision ever, you know.
in terms
I'm
of
sure
hiring
that
over
had a
the
lot to
county,
do with her.
Let's move on.
The firm's located.
But what I'm saying is,
Okay.
we should be able to hire somebody here in Lassen County for such legal professional services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? would like to comment? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Who moved and who seconded?
Okay.
For the record.
I moved in.
Okay, Mr. Judd and Mr. Holden.
Very good. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Okay, item G7.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked the police, I've just never seen this before on the non-reimbursements amount or normal to, or due to normal adjustments in the indirect cost rates. I've just never seen this before, and I was just, that's why I was just curious on why they're normal and what they are.
Well, I wish Laura was here to answer it, but I can generally answer it. There are often items in the indirect cost plan that are not allowable.
Is that on the state side or outside?
The state doesn't allow them, and so they don't reimburse us for them.
Do you think any idea what they are?
I don't know specifically what those are.
Could we ask
We could-
for,
We could put this off till next week and find out.
well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, yeah, I think we should, because, you know, having a few minor non-reimbursements like we see on the first couple pages, I mean, it represents less than 1%. Our total billings for July and August are on the last two pages dealing with the expenditures for this fiscal year have been 100% rejected. So that's a little bit different than just having you know, this paper clip here or that, you know, file
Well-
folder there not being accepted. And so I think it'd be helpful to know what the basis is of those non-reimbursed rates, because we're talking about $130,000 over 2 months that we've expended that we're being told that we're not gonna get reimbursed now.
You know, with regard to the July and August billings, nothing's been received yet, and we wouldn't really expect to receive it yet because the bills have just been sent.
Well,
How far behind do they run?
Well,
historically, they can be 2 years behind.
It varies.
But the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been pretty current. I think you need to change then the headline from non-reimbursed to pending or something, because there's a difference between pending and non-reimbursement. And non-reimbursement is a reinject.
right, but until the payment comes in, we don't know what they're not gonna reimburse.
Well, so that's why I think you should title it then pending, because I read that as being, we're not getting paid for it.
Okay.
Because I could see where you have, like, you know, in January of this year, we had $39,275 and 19 cents was the claim. They paid $38,370 of it, and the non-reimbursement rate is 905. So that's something that they declined to pay, which rarely happens, because when its purpose to have a LoRa there is to collect everything in a neutral setting, package it, and forward it in to make sure that the things that we're claiming are justified to be claimed, and filtering out the stuff, and that's the reason why the state has it set up that way, where she's kind of the independent party. So having a few things here and there not pass muster is fine, but you can't have that title non-reimbursement.
I'll bring it back next week.
Yeah, I think
Because it just seems to be recurring, because every month there's some non-reimbursements, whereas before there hasn't been.
Right.
they fully paid all the claims, and they normally do pay, so this is the first time in a long time, even in the January through June of this year, where we have just, you know, $6,800 and $6,400 that, or $4,400 that was declined to be paid on, which is important, but it's not critical, because it's a small amount, it's like 1% of the overall claim, so I could see that being disallowed, but saying non-reimbursed and identifying, and it's just basically pending, it hasn't been processed yet, because usually they're 60 days behind, 45 days behind.
But we still need a non-reimbursed column.
Column, yeah.
It's also
Well,
handy.
I think what we'll have to do is, until the payment's made, we'll have to say non-reimbursed and unallowable, because we don't know what the difference is until.
Right,
the
until we get a payment, that would be a pinch.
So I think you should make it.
Or just call it pending. Maybe we'll-
Yeah.
Once we've been paid, if there's a balance.
And if there's an unallowed cost, then have a column for unallowed.
Well, you don't, that's the point, you don't know what the unallowed cost is
Right,
before you
well,
get the
it
payment.
would, in the pending column would be the full amount until you get your payment. And then if you do like you did in January through June, where you actually have a amount received or paid, it shows you how much was disallowed.
So is that just gonna come back next week?
Sure.
Alrighty, let's take up, let's try and get in a fair report before 11 o'clock. So item H1,
He was going to be coming when you start this page. Jim was going to be
oh. Let's take up H2.
Mr. Chairman, as directed, council and I have prepared draft responses for the board regarding the grand jury report. Those are included in your packet. And we look forward to either issuing that as it is or making amendments as you see fit.
How is this going to be put forward, Richard?
I'm sorry,
How is this going to be presented forward? Is it going to be put in a newspaper ad like,
we're looking for direction on that as well. I checked with the newspaper, and it looks like somewhere in the $500 range to put it in the newspaper. I could have, that would be in the paper itself as opposed to an insert. I don't know the cost of that insert, but we can look into that as well, whatever the board prefers.
As long as it's in the paper and it's published, I don't care if it's an insert or if it's just, it's part of the paper, as long as the text is published. So we could have the same response to their published report.
That'd be great, as long as it's all covered and they don't just take pieces out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if we pay for it, then I think they'll print what we provide them.
Right.
So are you gonna give them a summary of this, or no?
No, that would be
An insert.
the entire response.
I guess I have a question, what's the difference between putting the entirety of this in there in the paper or an insert? I mean, I know the difference physically, but I mean.
Well, I just asked about putting it in the paper, whether the cost difference, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't suspect it would be a big difference.
Wouldn't think it. I mean, if an insert's 500 too and not 3,000, you know, and the insert would be,
We would prefer an insert, is that?
prefer that, but if it's, I don't wanna pay more money. As long as the
You know,
content.
there's gonna be news stories, that's for sure, but I think in addition to the news story, I think having the entire text published as a document, whether it's an insert or it's a full-page ad or however it is, as long as the full text is there so people can read it in its entirety rather than having excerpts taken out. I mean, the news story can't publish the whole text, that's not feasible, so,
Right.
you
Well,
know.
if you want to leave it to my discretion, if it's not significantly more expensive, we'll do an insert. If it is, we'll just do that.
All right, I'll see if there's any public comment, and then we'll come back for action. There probably won't be any public comment, but let's try anyway. Is there anybody here to comment on item H2? Okay, seeing none. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion, we approve the report as provided.
Responses.
We're considering response, the grand jury response we have here to approve that response to the grand jury.
I'll second.
Does that include leaving to Richard's discretion on how to leave?
Well, yeah, I don't, if you wanna add that in the motion, you can do that. Yeah. Provide direction regarding publication of report, we've done that at Richard's discretion on.
How best to implement it.
And he has the, thank you, previous authority already
Yeah.
to spend that amount in order to publish it, to be the direction on how to publish.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor
Well,
say aye.
if I can make a comment, Mr. Chairman, I want to first of all thank Mr. Egan and Mr. Burns for the preparation of the document. It obviously has been something that has taken some time to do. I was anxious that the response be done early and timely. You know, I would have probably responded to some of it a little bit more strongly, but I think that they've been very good at crafting, I think, a balanced message in terms of what the board's concerns are, in terms of responding to the concerns of the grand jury. So I think those people who read the document in its entirety rather than just taking out of context snippets here and there to use for whatever purposes will find that it's an educated and informed response, and I appreciate that effort and will support the motion.
I'd like to make a comment too. If I could find somebody to build me a building at $24.50 a square foot, I sure would like to employ him.
Alright. Anything further? Okay. So, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Richard.
With that, I ask that each of you present your signature to the cover page so that that document can be lodged with the Superior Court as the law requires. And I can do that promptly. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take up item H3.
What you have in front of you, last week, we had some concerns about the availability of some of the IHSS staff. And so I asked Ms. Brawley to look into that, and she's provided the memo that's in your packet outlining that, and she's here to summarize that and answer any questions.
I prepared a memo for Richard. It pretty much summarizes the information I provided last week in response to the statement from the CUHW staff. And that's that it's, there is a door there that has to be there because of our contract confidentiality, but it's no worse than having to ring a bell when you go into an office and have to ring a bell because there's no one sitting right there immediately. And she is right on the other side of that door. If they knock on it, she comes out and talks to them. So it hasn't been an issue for the providers until the union came. So be happy to answer any questions you have.
So none of the public that is trying to reach you has any issues trying to reach you at any
No.
given time?
No, and even if if there's a training or something going on and there's no one back in that area, they walk right by the main reception area over there where there's someone who'll be happy to help them, so.
So this door right here where they're on the outside, is this door where the employee is on the inside?
Yep.
So there really are not obstruction barriers that were,
No, it's not.
okay.
And it is a closed door, there's a window in it, you just have to knock on it and someone responds. They're all sitting just on the other side of it, so.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Is there any, we'll take public comment on this item at this time? Public comment, okay. Action requested is just to receive and file. Thank you. All right, take up item H4.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I mentioned last week, the CSAC conference begins on November 18th, which is a regularly scheduled board meeting. I'm hoping to attend that conference as I think Supervisor Chapman and perhaps
Yes.
Supervisor Hammond.
Actually, I think some of the training modules that Mr. Hammond would be expected to do actually takes place on Monday, the day before the conference starts.
So I just bring that up because that would only leave 3 members for the meeting. We can certainly conduct a meeting with only 3, but if the board would prefer to move that to another date, maybe a better idea. The month of November, interestingly, has the 4th, which is the first Tuesday of the meeting. That's also election day, so we wouldn't normally have a meeting then.
I don't think you can put into a resolution.
Right, we would not have a meeting. On the 11th is Veterans Day, which is the following Tuesday, so we wouldn't have a meeting then. That's a county holiday. The 18th is the meeting that we're discussing, and so that would, if we cancel that meeting, that would only leave 1 meeting in November on the 25th, the week of Thanksgiving. So it might be preferable to move the meeting to another date, so that we at least have 2 meetings in November. And that's what I would recommend, but
What would be the other day after that week?
it could be the week of the 3rd through the 7th, on Wednesday, Thursday, or Monday.
Well, how long your CSAC thing, Richard? What's
It's 3
It,
days.
yeah, so I guess we could do Friday the 21st,
Before
after CSAC.
Yeah, actually, Friday's really your travel day, because the meeting
Yeah.
goes through Thursday night, so my plane reservation, I won't be coming back till Friday morning.
I think my suggestion would be the 12th or 13th. The 12th or 13th would be a Wednesday or Thursday, of the week of Veterans Day, which Veterans Day is a
We
holiday.
better have it the week before.
And we can revisit this, I just wanted to bring it up now, but maybe we can see what our agendas look like.
I think that's what we do.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll look towards that.
The 10th is, the Transportation Commission meets on the afternoon of the 10th, so the morning of the 10th would be available, but,
Okay.
which is a Monday, but the afternoon, there's meetings that happen that, in the afternoons, if you're aware of that.